Hashem and 7 Atzliach. Shavua Tov, Yudka.
Huh?
I called you Yudka because I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because Yudis Razel.
I call her Yudka.
I know. Because she's also Yudis. Yudit.
I met somebody else from Hungary yesterday, also named Yud.
Look at that. So many Yudkas. Okay, Chaverot. We did okay. We did the 4 classifications of Domem, Tzomeach, Chai, Medaber, the inanimate inanimate plant, animal, Medaber. I don't know how well I gave over the Medaber part. There's a lot of I didn't so well. Okay, so let's revisit that a little bit, and then we're going to go to the chart. Okay, now I want to explain why am I starting with the classifications. Why am I starting with the most basic elements that everything is built upon? Because if you understand that, then you can take what we learned with that and then apply it to the other categories of lights and vessels and everything. Then you'll understand it better. But again, if it's not understood by you, you have to stop me. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Medaber. Let's finish that properly. And okay. I know what, okay. Medaber. Number. Okay. So the Medaber is a human. He can speak. What does a Medaber have? All of these classifications, what did one have gain over the other one that they're built upon? More ratzon, more individuality, more a need for self-expression, more capability of doing in this world. So plants have more to do than an inanimate, right? And animals have more to do than what plants can accomplish. And humans have the most capacity. Why? Because we have Tzelem Elokim, because we are godly, because we have within us a godly potential, a chelek Eloka mimal, a neshama, that is plugged into Ein Sof, to infinite capacity of doing. Okay? Now, and how does that translate to, hey, how you're hopping along, but you're okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Baruch Hashem, good to see you. Shavua Tov. So the Ratzon Lekabel is like, the Ratzon Lekabel is very important to understand why Rav Ashlag expressed all of these classifications as Ratzon Lekabel. We said that it's the basic thing that Hashem created. The chiddush in the world was a desire to receive something, because that's the chiddush. That's the chiddush, because everything else is an emanation of Hashem. It's an extension of Hashem, and filtered light, diminished light, whatever it is. But so it's an extension of Him. It's a yesh miyesh. It's something from something. That's light. That's what fills vessels. But the chiddush is the vessel to receive. The vessel to receive. In order to have a vessel to receive, you have to have a ratzon to receive. You have to have a desire to want something. Okay? You don't want what you don't want. You don't lack what you don't want. So chisaron is the basic building block of growing, of advancing, of wanting to advance. Okay, if I don't feel like I'm lacking anything, I don't have a ratzon to advance, to do anything. And so the ratzon lekabel of a human is like, once you graduate from the animal stage to Ratzon Lekabel of a human, what did we say? What's the particular distinguishing factor of the Adam? Do you remember? It's being able to consider things outside myself, outside my ego, to expand myself beyond just what concerns me. I can be concerned about others. You can only speak about compassion, about that godly midah of rachamim, when you get to a place of, there's more than me in this world, and what is my purpose? It's a godly purpose. I have to give expression to the godly component of me, not just my body, not just my ego. The other 3 stages before we get to man is just ego-based. It's self-serving. The inanimate just wants to be what it is. The plant wants a little bit more, but it's still what it is. It wants sun. There's movement there. They want It needs the minerals it needs the inanimate to allow it to grow. Everything is predicated on, is based on the inanimate. And from the inanimate, then life can happen. And then once you have plants and you finish that fulfillment of self in terms of, oh, like I like sun, I need I have an individual understanding of my needs as an individual flower or whatever it is, so I can express myself individually. If I'm not in the sun, I'll go towards the sun. And then the animals, well, they need the inanimate and they need the plant to grow. Also, you can't have an animal without the earth and without the plants on the earth to grow. And so they have a greater ratzon lekabel. Once the inanimate perfects its inanimateness and graduates towards, now that's not enough. Now I need to be more like a plant. I understand that there's more to me than just me. I want to grow. I want to expand in some way. I want to express myself. And then you go into the animal, then the animal has 4 legs, or if you're a centipede, you have 100 feet, whatever it is, but there's freedom, there's movement, and there's more individuality in that. Not every centipede, and not every dog, and not every animal needs to behave like every other dog. They have more of an individual, in which direction they'll flee when they're feeling fear or whatever it is. They have an individual expression more than just the plant that I just need to live and I need to have some basic movement. And but it's still focused on self. It's still ego based. When we're out, when I say that, it's like we're not stuck on inanimate plant and animals as we see it in nature. They are what they are. They're instinctive. God built them that way. But when you get to a human, that's where the work begins. The whole purpose for Hashem creating the world and all of the elements in it is to get to that place of human. When we speak about humans, right? To be able to really do something with it. Like people who say such chutzpah, such arrogance of man to think that he is the purpose for his creation. What about all of this beautiful creation? Then you have when you think like that, why is somebody knocking? Do they not know to open the door? Maddie, did you close the door? Oh, there you go. Oh, Shani. Welcome. So nice to see you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, someone bring me back to my last sentence.
You were talking about the purpose of the world.
Only a small matter of the purpose of the world. Okay. Yeah, the purpose of the world. Right. I was saying people who think that it's arrogant of man to think that they're any better than anything else in creation. Then you have things like animal rights, and they're willing to kill people for the animal rights, and they don't really realize that. What are you doing, right? Like, you understand where I'm going with this? Like, you understand? Like, it's confusing. It's limiting the God energy to just this world. That's called the Avodah Zarah. There's only, I guess I'll get to that in another stage, in another class, to explain the concept of Memale Kol Almin. Hashem fills all the world, but is also Mesovev Kol Almin. He's above all the world as well. He's not limited and defined by it. People who think that nature is God, that's not Judaism. It's other religions, okay? That's not us. So man, once we understand who we are and our basic needs and our basic desires, and we build our ego and what makes us tick, and where's my individuality, how do I need to express it, and what are my kochot that I can bring into this world, then there's we have to graduate in these classifications to the medaber, to the Adam. And once you get to Adam, you're tapping into the neshama, to the godly potential that is within us, to not just think of the ego, to think of, not just to think of me and how the world is self-serving me, but rather, rather, where is my service in the world? That's godly. That's rachamim. That's the potential of a human that we need to get. So a lot of Chazal say that you can be an adam b'tzurat chaya b'tzurat ben adam, an animal in the form of man. That's a human being that only thinks of himself, herself, and egotistical needs, and just growth, and just everything is just to serve them. But it's only the person who can take this ratzon lekabel, this desire to receive, that God, it's built into our nature. We are built on the need to receive. We're takers, but that's in the first three classifications, to define themselves as a domem, tzomeach, and chai. But a human being has to then flip the ratzon lekabel to ratzon lehashpia, moving away from ego to altruism. That's when you're starting to begin your process in being an Adam. Adam is a designation, a medaber, the potential of a medaber, of Adam, is to be able to move away from ego, to think of others. But then I ended off last year with saying, but there's like a negative and a positive way of expressing everything. And Chazal teach us, Leolam Adam Yasok Belo Lishma, Shamilo Lishma Ba Lishma. Translated, a person always, Leolam, that means it's a rule that we always have to go through a Lo Lishma stage, not for Hashem's sake, from an ego place, before we get to the above ego, beyond ego stage, the Shem Shamayim stage, the Lishma stage, Leolam. So the Ratzon Lekabel, of a human, before he gets to really fulfill the potential of an Adam, first of all, he has to get in touch with the Ratzon lekabel, al menat lekabel. The Ratzon lekabel means a desire to receive just for the receiving. There's a big, that's why we can see in humanity evil people with great neshamas. They're great neshamas. That's what they have, tremendous power. They have a tremendous desire to devour the whole world domination, to use everything for their benefit. That only means that their potential is so great on the Kedusha side, but they're abusing it. They're staying on the lowest level of the, so they're tapping into the Ratzon HaKabel of a human. I can influence people. I understand people, but I'm going to use it in a very manipulative way for self-serving reasons. That's lo lishma, that's still ego. But until you understand that I just want to eat up the world, you're not going to be able to then ever graduate to using that in a good way. You have to have a ratzon lekabel, a desire to receive before you understand what it means to use it in a holy way. Any questions up until this point?
Is that the definition of a Rasha?
The Rash. Okay, you were here for Rash Ashlag. How does Rav Ashlag explain Ratzon Atzmi? What's a Rasha? Rasha is Ratzon Shel Atzmo, the desire of self-will, like self-love, and that's it. It's
what you just said.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, exactly.
So
That is a
you
definition of a
define
Rasha.
That somebody who has this God potential
Yeah.
and uses it for the wrong purposes, that's the very definition.
Absolutely. For egotistical reasons, just what can I get out of it in a manipulative, in a destructive, in a corruptive, in a coercive way, as long as I get what I want. And it's from there that once, like, if you're a tzaddik type, if you have it in you to grow your potential in a godly manner, you're going to come in touch with this ugly ego way of doing things and say, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. Rav Ashlag explains that the first step towards self-development, for spiritual advancement, is to realize how much bad you actually have within you. Because unless you recognize that, you're not going to ever graduate to beyond that. It's a big bracha and a big l'chaim moment to realize, oh, I thought I was good, but now I'm seeing that I have jealousy, I have all kinds of desires that take me away from my godly potential. And it's only that recognition of bad that flips, that then we can work on all kinds of other concepts that we're going to get later in the course of masach screens, like um, blocking out anything that I want to receive that I know that is not going to lead me to kedusha. Yes, I want it, but it's going to take me away from neshama, so I'm not going to act on it. But it's recognizing that I have that ratzon and then working with myself to advance from that. Then you have things like, well, I'll explain in other classes, or yashar, or choser, all of those concepts of masach and or yashar and choser all have to do with this, of advancing from the basic level of ratzon lekabel for lekabel, which is the darkest place away from Hashem. Because if you think about what's the furthest thing away from Hashem, when we talk about distance from spirituality, it's not distance in space, like we said, it's distance in likeness of form to Hashem. What is the most distant way of being from Hashem? Hashem is a mashpia. He wants to give good. He wants to just be a mashpia. The furthest away from that in creation is just a ratzon lekabel al menat lekabel, a desire to receive just for receiving sake, ego.
How does Nukudas Abkhira work with that then? Let's say, like, you recognize you have something bad within you. You know it's there, but at the same time, are you always able to flip it? Or sometimes you're just meant to accept the fact that you can't yet graduate to the flipping stage? I would say flipping is like a...
You flipped out. Like you got...
No, flipping is like, instead of using a curse word, you're like,
oh, okay.
Oh, there's flipping.
Okay. So
situation.
for the sake of, they can't really hear the question. Succinctly, like formalize the question so I can repeat it for the people on Zoom. Where's the nekudat bchira? Where is our choice? If we all have this ratzon lekabel, then where is our choice? The choice is, I see it and I say, I don't want to be stuck in this place. And there's always a bchira to move forward.
Is there,
it's not,
though?
Yes, there is 100%, because we are meant to be bnei Adam and not chaya b'tzurat Adam.
Right, but is there not some parts of us
There's
that maybe we're stuck in that are not yet ready to...
There's always a stage that we're stuck in and we're not ready yet, and that's the work. That's where Musar Sfarim come in. That's where Chassidus comes in. That's where Hidbodedut comes in. That's where Hidbonenut comes in. That's where all the Avodat HaNefesh, all the service, the work, that to recognize it and say, but I don't want to be jealous. Okay, let me examine this jealousy. Where is it coming from? It's therapy. That's why, like, all of this is like tikkun and healing. Kabbalah is all about tikkun hanefesh. We're all mitaken. We're all trying to restore our nefesh to what it was before the sin of the in Gan Eden that brought in the Yetzer Hara into us, internalized it, and what that means is I internalize the Yetzer Hara, that the Ratzon Lekabel is there, is part of me. But it's not meant, I'll tell you something deep now. The Nachash, the serpent, I'm getting off track, but it's an interesting question. I have an interesting answer. So, okay, whatever. So the Nachash in Gan Eden, what was the whole argument there? Why did Adam, Harishon, Chava, that were made perfect in Hashem, why did they succumb to the snake? Where did that come from? The Nachash's argument, according to the Zohar, is, why do you think Hashem created me? So that I just not bother you? So that you don't go to where I can take you and then flip all of that towards you? And that argument won. They wanted to be like God, and they can't be like God if they don't have a choice. If they're made like that, wired like that, they don't have a choice. Big deal. So Hashem made me this way. So what's me in this? But the Nachash says, I'm a kli for service for Hashem. And until you go to all the ugly places that are potentially there for you to visit, you are not fulfilling your potential to flip everything over into godliness.
How does that work with Nekuda Bchira
then? Because the Nekuda Bchira began with the eating of the Eitz Sadat Tov V'Ra. That's where choice is. There's Tov and there's Ra. And once I have that struggle with me, what am I going to choose?
Yep. I think I'm trying to say though is isn't there some parts of us that gets, as in there are some parts of us that it's in battle right now.
Okay.
And we're in the Nekudas Bchira stage of things. And then where some things are above us and some things are beneath us.
If you're aware of it, it's a bracha.
Right.
It's a lechaya moment. The things that you're not aware of are not for you to be metaken. The question is, why aren't you aware of them? Because you're just happy to be stuck in an inanimate stage of things? Everything is okay? or it's enough for me to figure out what my, like bring a little bit more kavanah and work like into what I'm doing better, a little bit better than an inanimate. So I'm a tzemach now, but I'm still a vegetable. Or is it enough for me to be an animal with all my individualistic roaming around the world and animal beastly desires and everything like that? And is that enough for me? If it's enough for you, there are many people in this world that's enough for them. It's chava. They're not tapping into their potential. If the question never. Okay, here's another thing. I really want to get to the chart, but I can't not answer this question because it's a beautiful question. What is the way back to Gan Eden? We're kicked out of Gan Eden. What is the key that Hashem gave them? The mafteach, the key to get back into Gan Eden. Ask yourself, Ayeka, where are you? If the person never takes themselves to a contemplative state of asking themselves, where am I in this world? What am I supposed to be doing? That's it? I'm eating and pooping and whatever it is that else I'm doing, that's enough for me? It's amazing how many people that's enough for them. They are not fulfilling the purpose for which Hashem created the world. Bishvili nivra olam. Every person has to say the world was created for my sake. But for which person? For the person who lives on the domem tzomeach chai stage of things? Or is it the tzaddikim or tzaddikim in process that ask themselves, Ayeka, this can't be enough. I need to fulfill my godly potential. And then they'll realize it's not just about me. It's about me being a mashpia. It's me tapping into my godly soul, and the soul, which is yesh mi yesh. It's something from something, because it's in direct line from Hashem. It's part of Hashem within us. But we're thrown into this kli called the guf, to this vessel called the body. And that's where the work is. To move from the body, from the ego, towards the neshama. And there's always a nekudat bchira there. There's always a choice. The question is, are you bringing yourself to these choices? Are you asking yourself the correct questions? Now, the things that come to mind of where my struggle is, I see I have jealous in me or anger or whatever it is, then yalla, work on it. Bring it into the light. Soften it. Work with yourself to know that you have to move away from that mindset. And what you're moving towards is towards light. It's towards giving expression to the neshama to expand and to actualize and manifest within the body that Hashem gave you. And that's the ultimate. That's why Tchias HaMetim is so great. That's why we have to come back into a body. We think as long as we got rid of the body, what have to again? Because our relation is the struggle. But the point is not to be the struggle, that there has to be a refined place where the body and the soul work together. Okay. Did I satisfy you? Oh, no. Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, you did.
For you, but not her face is like not saying it. Go ahead. Formulate the question.
Sort of off the track for a second. Are you saying that in essence, Adam and Chava needed to sin and do what they needed?
Oh, Nora Alila Bivnei Adam. It's a Tehillim. Nora Alila Bivnei Adam. It's like we were framed. Nora Alila. It's a great plot against us that Hashem put us through. We had no choice but to fall. For the sake of the tikkun, to do it from free choice, to come back to the light, to ascend up the worlds.
Then why do we learn it was such a terrible thing?
But that's why we're learning Kabbalah now. That's why our generation, which is the final generation before Mashiach, before the final tikkun, that's why all of this wisdom is being available to us, because it's up to us now to bring it all back. All the therapies out there, it's what they're doing. It's from the body. It's somatic therapy. It's in the cells. The body keeps the score. You got to get to the most bottom elements of what makes you, the inanimate, the cells, the memory of every bad thing that you did or whatever it is. Get in touch with the inanimate in you, the vegetable in you, the plant, the animal within you, and then transcend to Adam. And with that is the tikkun for all the world, to bring everything into. What's your question?
And more just a clarification. So as soon as you have the awareness is the first step.
The awareness is the first step. Now, what happens with the awareness? I'm off track, but I'm just going to answer this and then I'm moving on, because you're taking us to our shir on Hitbonanta that we did. Okay. So the thing is like this. When I'm aware of my bad, two things can happen. There's always a struggle of good and bad. There's always a pull to kedusha, the same as there's a pull to tum'ah, to klipa. The first time I'm going to be aware of my bad, I'm going to say, this is so uncomfortable. I need to distract myself. Where's the ice cream? Or whatever, okay? Chaval, because this is an opportunity for growth and you're moving away from the potential of what just showed up in you. It's a gift to know what's wrong with you. It's a gift. Rather, what we need to do is stay our ground, not to react to it like an animal. I have to flee from uncomfortable situations and express it in my individual way. It could be through ice cream, it could be through schnitzel, it could be through Netflix, it could be through all kinds of substances. Okay, and we have the expert on substances here with us around the table. Okay, so right, it's like I'm going to stay long enough in this uncomfortable situation to face my ratzon atzmi, and battle with it, and whatever it is that I need to do, be'ezrat Hashem yitbarach, to allow more of my neshama to come and assist me to overcome the ego in this situation of wanting to punch the person in the face for the insult, as opposed to keeping quiet right now. It's effort. It's mesiras nefesh. I'm moser my nefesh. I'm sacrificing something that I'm identifying with, the me that I thought I am, which is my instinct, but it's not the me. The me, real me, is my neshama, and we have to get to the neshama, and that's nekudat habchira. Okay, very good. So now, we gave an example last week of let's say in the domem stage of like, and there's a reason why I brought it like that. Let's say in the domem stage, that's like the masses, everyone doing the same thing. They wake up in the morning, they brush their teeth, they do what they do, they eat breakfast, they either go to work or they go to yeshiva or they do anything what they do. And then at the end of the day, and they eat a few meals during the day, and then they come back and they go to sleep and again. That's the domem stage. What's individual? You're just keeping the survival of the species alive going. Other than that, nothing distinguishing you. You're like an inanimate in terms of the human expression of that. And then you have the tzomech, and the reason why it's the sfarm, they bring the yeshiva, the like from the example of yeshiva bachram, that they all do the same thing, and it's like the yechidei skula, the few people that said, but this is not enough for me, I want to advance to be a magid shir, a rebbe, a rosh yeshiva, whatever it is, in whatever capacity, and that's, but you can't have a tzomech stage without the inanimate. You can't, from the masses come those few individuals that rise above it to get to the next stage. And then from the tzemach stage, you get to the next stage. Without the tzemach stage, the plant stage, you can't have those individuals that really ascend to being like understanding their ego well enough that says, this is really not enough. I want even more. I want to be something more than this. I need to exercise more control, more self-expression. I have to actualize myself more, but it's still on the ego stage. And it's from that you have the few that really reach the designation of Adam. And all the stages are necessary to learn, because just like just like a tree bearing fruit needs the earth for the seed to be planted in, for it to grow into a tzemach, a plant. And from that, for it to be eaten by animals that then like bring up the mineral and the plant into them to grow whatever they're meant to grow. And from there, you can have those people that are on the human level, if we're like, making a parallel, understanding that all of these elements are within us, that you can come to the greater place of actually being a human. If I'm not in touch developmentally, starting off as a tinok, as a baby, with knowing very little about myself except to survive, and then growing with my individual taste and toys and stuff like that, and then expanding to, but it's not enough, the teenagehood years of like, I need to have more stuff in my life, than I need relationships and all kinds of things like this, and then to grow to really be the tzaddik. You can't. We have to be in touch with that. We are given the opportunity to be egotistical people, to get to know what the ego is, what the ratzon is, in order to finally get to the human stage to say, but this is not enough. My ratzon lekabel is to do so much more in the world. And then from a lo lishma place, from an ego place, to take all of that koach and to bring it into kedusha, to bring it into what I need to do, use my ratzon lekabel for, is to benefit the world. And the pinnacle of that is, the ultimate of that is Mashiach, because he has the whole world like concern on his shoulders. Everything. I need to bring everything. It's Das Hashem all over the place. And so the tzaddikim are the most humble, but they have the most potential to be evil themselves. Understand this. There's a midrash about Moshe Rabbeinu that somebody wanted, they heard about Yetzias Mitzrayim and all the things in the desert and all the miracles, and they wanted to see, who is this? So somebody gave him a portrait, and they saw, and he knew to read faces, and he said, this, I see all of the evil things in this world, the robbery and the corruption and everything. And this is the great leader of Israel that's so close to God. And so the midrash, as it goes, it's Tiferet Israel, the Mishnah. I think it's the parish of the Stipler that he brings this. I hope I'm not making a mistake. I'll have to look it up after. But I remember it's Tiferet Israel. Tiferet Israel. That makes sense. It's Yaakov Israel. Anyway. So he says, like, that they went to Moshe Rabbeinu and they showed him and said, we saw on your face, reading your face, you're not this holy person. Is it true? And he says, absolutely. All of that is my potential, but I flipped it. I worked on taking all of that ability to do bad with my kochot, and I brought it to kedusha. Okay. So let's say on a timeline, if on an inanimate, if my potential is +1, the negative is -1. Growing up, the classifications, if my potential is +10, on the negative I'll have +10. What's the potential of a human? Infinite. So what is the potential of evil in this world? Infinite. You can have a Hitler, Machshmo. You can have this, I don't want to say his name, in Aza, but their ability to do is because they have great potential to do, because they can think of how evil, of every evil thing that they can do, and they execute it, they go with it. The random person on the street, they don't think of such levels of evil because they haven't developed their soul enough. It's a good thing for maybe, like, but you understand what I'm saying? But it's the most evil people that have big neshamas. Bilam was a big neshama. Lavan was a big neshama. All of the Rishayim are big neshamas, but what did they do? They graduated to the level of Adam, but they stay on the level of Chaya b'tzurat Adam. They're tapping into the potential of the Ratzon lekabel of a human, but because they don't graduate from ego, they don't move from ego to altruism, they stay rishut. And they don't get to be an Adam. They're chayot, b'tzurat Adam. Okay, very good.
So
They stay chayot, b'tzurat Adam, but with a great potential of being an Adam, but they're far.
So the guru, for example, who sits on a mountaintop and contemplates the existence of the world, is that a chaya still?
Okay, so you have Jews and you have non-Jews. Edie asked, what about the guru that sits on top of the world, harms nobody, and sits and contemplates life, whatever, and he's not doing any evil, but is he considered an Adam under our designation, under how Kabbalah explains it? If you're a goy, okay. If you're a Jew, loss of potential. Because the power of a Jew is to bring everything back to Hashem. Everything means you don't do nothing with the life and all the abilities Hashem gave you. Going through the hitbonenut stage of contemplating life is the beginning stage for a Jew. It's not the end of a Jew. It's a beginning stage of a Jew. For a goy, it's okay. They can be considered holy if they are doing it. For a Jew, it's not holiness. For a Jew, it's like, what the heck are you doing with your life? Why do you think Hashem gave you the ability to eat so you shouldn't eat? Why do you think Hashem gave you muscles so you should sit like this for 10 hours and atrophy your muscles and do nothing with the muscles? Everyone going to India, they say, oh, holy, look at that. He can sit and do nothing for forever. Not for a Jew. We have 613 mitzvahs that incorporate everything that Hashem created into this world to bring to holiness, the inanimate, the plant, the animals. All of the avodas hamishkan is to bring all the elements back into Hashem and understand that it's all of us, that when we take all of that and bring ourselves in the service of Hashem, we're elevating all the worlds. That's what's called dira b'tachtonim, making a dwelling place for Hashem in this world. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go to the chart. Do you have a chart? Okay. Do you have your chart from last time? Oh, I don't need a chart because I'm going to call it up on the screen. Here, give it to Maddie. Okay, so I'm going to screen share now. And now we're going to see how it all fits, okay? Bezrat Hashem. Asiyata Dishmaya, that I should get to it. Seder Olamot. Now we're going to see, Bezrat Hashem, how we're going to make sense of all of this chart and everything else, Kabbalistic terms, because I believe that this Domem Sameach Chaim Medaber is kind of new for most of you, how it fits. Kabbalah, we should be speaking about the Sfirot, about the Olamot, about God's names and stuff like that. Why are we speaking about all of these things? Now you're going to see how it all fits, okay? Okay, hold on. 1 second. I'm going to stop share, and then we're going to come again. Okay, screen share. So I'm going to bring you another one next, all right? I'm going to bring you, and I'm going to make more copies. I still have to buy paper for the thing. Okay. Okay, so here it is. You keep it. I mean, it's also on the chat, on the thing. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now, what is this? What is this chart? You have lights and you have vessels. Everything is lights and vessels. Everything. The light, everything, every time Kabbalah speaks about light, it means God's light. But it comes down in different measures because of all the filtering systems of the things that we spoke about in the first two classes of the descent of the worlds, from Or Ein Sof through the worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. Now again, I'm begging you, okay, and I'm telling the students, you have to take responsibility for the learning. Because if I say things that you don't understand, you have to stop me, and I'm counting on that. I can't know what is not being understood. Okay. So again, and you have to learn these words in Hebrew too. Seder Ishtalshalut means descent of the worlds. Descent of the worlds means that God's infinite light from Or Ein Sof goes through a filtering system, like you know, when we wear sunglasses, we filter the light of the sun in a way that we can handle the light of the sun, that we're not going to, it's not going to be harmful for us, right? So there's a filtering system going down the worlds, and each world means, olam comes from the word he'elem, means to hide something, to conceal something. What's being hidden? God's light. And each world that we descend, that the Kabbalah speaks about, the descent of the worlds, is a greater filtering of Hashem's light, that the inhabitants of that world can function with that amount of light, that it's not going to obliterate. Okay.
Could you say that word again? I didn't catch it. It was
Which
fast.
word? Which word?
The descent of the worlds. It was a Hebrew.
In Hebrew,
Yes.
Seder HaHishtalshalut.
Seder.
HaHishtalshalut. Seder means the order of, Hishtalshalut means chain. The chain of descent of the light of Hashem.
Thank you.
Now, so we have lights, and then we have vessels to receive the light. So the light never changes. The light never changes, but what does change? The dosage of light that reaches us based on the filtering system that we're holding by. Okay? So far, so good? Now the kelim have to match, the vessels have to match the light that's being given. If you have too much light and a too small vessel, what do you have? Breaking of the vessels, shvirat hakelim. Shvirat hakelim means it's a concept in Kabbalah. Another time we'll just spend time on that. But you can understand if you have a thin plastic cup that can only hold so much water, and you pour a whole pitcher of water into it, what's going to happen to the cup? It's gonna spill. It's gonna fall out of your hand. It's gonna be crushed. It can't contain it. So in order to be healthy, you have to have a healthy enough kli, vessel, to be able to hold all the light that is meant for it to hold. And that comes in different measures. So let's go back to this you see the degrees of will, the dargot shel ratzon. Domem someach chai medaber. Let me get a spotlight here. Hold on. Spotlight. Where's my spotlight? For people at home. You see the column that says degrees of will? This is what we spoke about a lot. Domem someach chai medaber. Domem is inanimate. Someach is plant. Chai is animal. Medaber is man. So you can write that in for yourself in English. What is the kli of the domem? Is it a big kli or a small kli? What do you think? Is it a small vessel or a big vessel? How much light could it contain? It's a small vessel. It's a small vessel. You go up the chain here, you keep expanding the vessel. Expanding the vessel means I can handle more light. More light of what? Of godliness. What is the kli? The vessel? The vessel is how much ratzon I have, how much will I have to receive. If I only have a small desire just to exist, then I'm a domem, I'm an inanimate, and the light that I'm going to attract myself to me, because that's all my kli can handle, is the smallest light possible of a life force that maintains me. And it goes up the chain like that. That's lights and vessels. So let's go back to the column of lights. Going down, up, okay? So there's nefesh, right? Because it's nefesh kol chai. Everything has a life force within it. We all have atoms and molecules running around. There's an energy there to maintain it for what it is. It's an energy that keeps it going. But how much energy is it? Doesn't take much energy to be a rock. That's why rocks can't move. That's why rocks don't desire to be anything other than they are. That's the nefesh. That's the baby born with the nefesh. That's the first level of soul that we get. But we're not meant to remain on that level. We're meant to expand our kli. We're meant to expand our kli to want more. What do we want more of? Light. If we want more light, what does that subsume? What is the assumption there? That I have more ratzon lekabel. I have more desire to receive. I've expanded my vessel. It's not enough for me just to be that. And there's no skipping steps. So if I graduate from nefesh, I've acquired my nefesh, I understand, it's very beautiful, like the siddur, Berchot HaShachar. The first thing we say is Asher Yatzar et Adam b'chokhmah. Asher Yatzar. It's talking about my goof. You can't start talking about your neshama if you don't know that you're a goof. After you acknowledge the goof, then you say, but I'm not. It's a kind of neshama. I also have a neshama. But then for a Jew, it's not enough that I'm a neshama and a goof. I'm a Jew. Berachot al Torah. It's the blessings of the Torah. It's a greater ratzon. And I don't end my Berachot HaShabbat with Asher Yatzar. Great, I can go to the bathroom. I have orifices in my body that work. I also have a neshama. I have to understand and appreciate that and grow into it. But for a Jew, it's Berachot al Torah. It's not enough for me just to be a human amongst humans. I have a potential to bring God into this world through what? Through Torah and mitzvahs. So you have, so we have the nefesh, and then you have ruach, which is a greater degree of ratzon lekabel. I have my vessel is greater, but right now we're only speaking about orot, lights, and not vessels. Once we get to the next column, we'll speak about the vessels that contain the light. That's the sfirot. The second column, Keter Chochmah Binah Tiferet Malchut. When we like work on our nefesh, I'm expressing my sovereignty in this world in terms of who I am physically in this world. Okay, the ani. What's the ani? The ego. Okay, I don't know how to proceed this. Okay, let's still stay with the column, with the first column, because I want it to be as clear and not confusing. So let's first stay with the first column. These are lights. These are the potentials that we can grow into. Nefesh, and then we grow. That corresponds to domain, and then we have the ruach that corresponds to the tzomeach. The nefesh, in terms of, okay, no, I'm not going to go there. Okay, nefesh, and then we have greater light that we can access, which is the ruach. Once we have the ruach, then we'll start making us restless. Is this enough for me? I really want more light. I want to actualize more of my potential because I'm a Jew, I'm a human, I'm a Jew. Then I'm going to work on the level of neshama, which all that means is greater light accessible to me, made accessible to me by my choice of ratzon lekabel. What is it that I want right now? I want the light of my neshama. And then you work to Yechaya and Yechida, which is, I'll speak about that another time, because effectively the levels of neshama that we can consciously work at getting in terms of internalizing into ourselves, light that we can internalize ourselves, is the first three levels, the bottom three, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Chaya and yechida is more what's called mekif. It's more transcending light that we want to internalize, that we intuit it's there, but do we actually access it directly like we can the nefesh, ruach, neshama? Not exactly, but that's for another time. But it's our potential to grow into it. Okay.
What's the difference between nefesh, ruach, and neshama?
Nefesh. Okay, so it
I get the levels. I just don't understand.
well, it corresponds to, in the chart, there's domem, tzomeach, and chai.
So nefesh, I understand nefesh is just the
Basic instincts. Okay, in the corresponding to the body of man, the nefesh is the kidneys. The seat of the nefesh, of the life force, is the kidney. It's the liver. It's basic instinct and desire. It's the blood. Ki nefesh hu ha'adam. No, ki adam hu ha'nefesh. The blood is the nefesh. We're into Vayikra now, so we're going to do korbanot. Why do we have to cover the blood of the sacrifice? All of that. It's like kidam hu ha'nefesh, because the blood is the nefesh. It's a basic life force. Okay, but if you just stay on that, then you're just functioning on instincts. It's just the blood that's where it's taking you. Survival. Ruach is like the tzomeach. It's like I have feeling in my, it's like I have ahava and yira. I want to do things with feeling. I'm not understanding the individual differences between one mitzvah and another. I could do this mitzvah, another mitzvah. I don't have an appreciable difference between if I do esrog and lulav or if I light the Shabbos candle. It all tastes the same to me. But boy, I'm into it. That's the tzomeach. That's the ruach. I have kavana in terms of ahava and yira, like but not in an overly developed way. It's more on feeling. So ruach, the seat of ruach, of the neshama, when you developmentally grow from nefesh to ruach, you're into the heart. You're feeling. It's the heart. And once you get to the neshama, that's in the seat of the neshama is the mind. And what you have is, you see, if you go to the second to last column, okay, b'kiyum Torah mitzvot, relation to doing the mitzvot. So nefesh, that corresponds to domem, corresponds to the maaseh mitzvot. You're just doing it. You're doing the mitzvah. You don't know why you're doing it. Hashem said, but you're not really having any feeling to it. You're doing it like a rab. That's the situations that we find ourselves in, that I don't know what happened to my cheshek of doing Torah and mitzvahs, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it if I don't feel like doing it. I'm going to do it anyway. That's a perfect way of being mitaken the domain in you. I'm doing it even without feeling. Hashem asked me to do it. I'm just going to do it. People will say, I'm going to wait for feelings before I do my mitzvahs because I want to be real. They're missing the point. They're skipping over the domem stage. You have to perfect the domem stage in serving Hashem also, because it's also part of you. So it's the maaseh, it's the doing of the mitzvahs. Once you get into the ruach, and you're more into the plant stage of doing things, you have more movement and feeling and self-awareness, then you have kavana, but in terms of the feeling of the kavana, it's not like you're not a Talmid Chacham doing it with the kavana of the Arizal. You're just like doing it with kavana because I'm feeling close to God and I don't want to feel not close to God. Okay? And that's the heart. And then once you get to the neshama, you're into what's called Sodot HaTorah. You're more using your understanding, you're learning, you're going to shiurim, you're opening up the books, you understand that the taste of the individual mitzvahs. There is a difference between when you're lighting candles and arba minim and baking a cake for your friend that needs it, whatever it is. You understand the individual aspects of the mitzvot and the kavanas that relate to each one, and you have an individual taste for each individual mitzvah. You follow what I'm saying? Any questions so far? Okay. And then once you get to Chaya, it's Kiyum Mitzvot Pia Kavanot, that means the Arizal. This is like the Kavanas, you're going really deep into Kabbalah and understanding, and you're understanding how each mitzvah affects all the worlds, not just your existence down here. It's like you're really opening channels and bringing Shefa down and your whole things. Is that a hand up for a question, Maddie?
I don't want to get stuck on this, but I just want to understand.
I'll let you know if you're off topic or not.
Concept of sights, would that be like out of body experience because it goes above the mind?
No, it's not out of body experience.
But it doesn't correspond to body. If body seeks it.
It's beyond the body. It's mekif. It's mekif. It's transcendent. It's intuitive. It's not internalized.
What Chaya is?
Chaya. Chaya means a life. So it means like it's movement towards something that you haven't yet gotten. I'll spend the whole session just on the neshamas. Right now I'm just giving you a global, like, okay. So now you have lights. But if you have lights, you need a vessel. If you don't have a vessel for light, you don't have light. What is light without a vessel experience like? What does that look like? What is the experience of light without a vessel? What would you say? What's the experience of light without a vessel? The answer is choshech, dark. And something to explain this, I heard this from Rav Ashraf from Oregonus. He explains like this. You have the moon reflecting the light of the sun. So based on basic elementary school knowledge, if the moon is reflecting the light of the sun is traveling towards the moon. So how come in outer space it looks dark in between the sun and the moon? Where are the rays of light? How come we don't see them? Get the question? It's a good question, no? And the answer is because there's no vessel to receive it. You only see the light once you have a vessel to catch it. And that's the moon. That's the stars. If there's no vessel, you effectively don't have light. Now, why is this an important thing to know? Because the light of Hashem is always there. Always there. The only thing is, do you have a vessel to receive it? Another example is like a window that lets the sunshine in. What happens if you pull down the blind, like what do you call those, blockout blinds? The light won't get into the room. Does that mean that the light is not there on the other side of the window? Of course it's there. But you haven't brought yourself to the proper conditions to receive it. The proper conditions is to build the kli that can contain the light. So far, so good? So the second column is the sfirot. Let me explain to you. Now we know we have 10 sfirot. So how come there's only 5 categories here of sfirot? We have Keter, Chochma, Bina, then what's called Tiferet and Malchut. Tiferet is made up of 6 sfirot. So you have Keter 1, Chochma 2, Bina 3, Tiferet 6, that's 9, plus Malchut is 10. Tiferet is the sfirot of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach Hod Yesod. Tiferet is the middle, it's the torso. Chesed and Gvura is the arms that hangs on the torso. You have the torso, which is Tiferet. And so like hanging from the torso. And then you have the reproductive organ, the Yesod. So clumped together, it's all the torso. It's all Tiferet. Another class, I'm going to spend a lot of classes speaking about each individual sfira, how each one, what does that mean, and what does it mean to our nefesh, and what's the avoda in each sfira. It might be after this class of concepts in Kabbalah. It's going to be concepts of Kabbalah too. That's just going to be an hour just on each sfira alone. But I'm trusting that if you're in this course, you heard these terms before, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, and these are midos, and from your work on Sfirat HaOmer, 1 week for each sfira. So you kind of know a little bit about, you have loving kindness, and you have Gevura, and you have things like that. It's enough for us. It's enough for now, just to keep us going. Unless you have a specific question that you want to ask, that you're stuck on before, like that you can't advance with what I'm saying. Now, this
Just repeat what you said about Tiferet is the
Tiferet
part of what?
is what?
The-
Is
you
a
said
is
Tiferet
made up of 6 sfirot.
Okay.
Of 6 sfirot. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Okay? And in short, it's called Tiferet. Even though each component of Tiferet, each one of those 6 things is a unique aspect on its own that we can speak a whole hour and probably 10 hours on, but taken together, it's like all one unit. And there's a reason why, but when we get to speak about it, we'll get to it. Now, why are these called vessels? Why are the sfirot called vessels? How are sfirot usually translated into English? Anyone
Midot.
here?
Midot.
Not chakras. Jewish terms.
Midot.
Some people, yeah, some midot. That's only for Tiferet, actually. Midot, because Keter, Chochma, and Bina are not midot. They're not attributes. That has to do with the realm of ruach. Like Tiferet is ruach, is more attitudes for things. That's midot. Avodat midot. That's why in Sfirat HaOmer we only focus on from Chesed to Malchus, because those are midot. And so what about Keter, Chochma, Bina? Why don't we work on them? Those are intellectual faculties. So they're not called midot. They're something else. Anyone else? They're called emanations of Hashem.
Emanation.
I think so. Hold on. Sfirot in English are vessels. Sounds good. But it's not really. Because they're vessels to contain the emanations of Hashem. And each these are okay with this. Let's go to the chart.
Manifestation.
No, they're not manifestations, they're vessels. Now you can have you can have, like, imagine a row of glasses on a table. One glass is clear, see-through. The other glass next to it is tinted red. The next glass next to it is tinted green. The next glass is tinted blue. The water that you pour into each glass is the same. It's whatever water is. But how are they going to be perceived by our eye when seen through the glass containing it? The color of the glass. Oh, so that now we're talking about red water or blue water or green water or see-through. The light in the vessel is always the same. That's Hashem's light. The containers that hold the light of Hashem, that's the color. That's the sphera. How is Hashem showing through this vessel called keter? The lenses. It's a prism of light. It's a different color that contains. It's always, the light is always the the same. Ani Hashem lo shiniti, Micha says the Navi. I Hashem do not change. That means the light is always the same. What changes? The receptacle, the vessel that receives it. How am I receiving the light? How am I experiencing it? That's why we have different names of Hashem, which is the last column in this chart. Am I experiencing Hashem through the Yud of Yud Hey Hashem, or well, it's not actually. Never mind that. Let's say there's 10 different names of Hashem that's associated with each one of the Sfirot. Am I experiencing Hashem as a Rachamim, as a Baal Rachamim, as all merciful? That's one relationship to Hashem. We're receiving Hashem's godliness through an experience of Rachamim. Or am I experiencing Hashem through Din, through the name Elokim? Now, two people can be experiencing the same thing. I'll say this is the Din of Hashem, and another person will say this is the Rachamim of Hashem, and they'll both be right. And it's the same situation. How am I reading what Hashem is doing to me right now? Sometimes a patch is the biggest chesed. Then there's called, you understand, like it's how do we receive? So the vessels, the sfirot, the 10 sfirot are ways in which the light is allowed to shine through to us. So there's the vessel of Keter. Keter is the highest level of the Sfirot. It begins with the Keter. It's the crown that sits on your head. It's the place of Ratzon, of will. Underneath that is Chochmah. Once you tap into Ratzon of Hashem and will, like that's high. Again, everything can be expressed in the negative and the positive. Yeah.
You said the light is all the same, but when we're talking about whatever you're talking, the dosage of the light is different, and also the dosage of the light is then being filtered through different.
And it shows up in the different vessels that correspond to that light.
There's two different on top of
It's not two different permutations. There's a light in a vessel. You don't have light without a vessel. So when you speak about I'm in Chochmah, I'm talking about the vessel of Chochmah that contains the light of the Chaya in it. You can't speak of Chaya without Chochmah. You can't speak about Neshama without Bina. You can't speak, because these are the vessels that contain it, because there's no light without a vessel. Light without a vessel is dark. It's no experience. What? It's all the dosage. So, okay, you know what? It's 11:10. So we're going to continue with this, B'ezrat Hashem. But let's like this. If I would diagram Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, you would draw it like Nefesh is the smallest circle. And it could be concentric circles, but it's like a circle. And then the light keeps like it's a cone shape that keeps expanding from that point on the bottom to be able to contain more and more light. You follow that? I'm expanding my vessel to receive more light. And what that happens is I'm accessing more of my light of my neshama, because these are levels of neshama.
How does that work, let's say, with Din and Rachamim? Are we dictating the
amount of shefa that reaches you? The amount of shefa that reaches you. Shefa is always light.
We're the ones who decided, and that was Din.
That's how Hashem
Rachamim.
decided.
Or
Hashem
we-
decided how
decided.
much light we're going to receive. That how much of the light of our own neshama. The first column is orot, is the light of the neshama. It's 5 levels of soul here. When I refine my kli, when I move away from ego, when I'm using my domem in me to do a siyat mitzvah, to do good and nothing but what Hashem wants, even on the domem state, I've perfected that. Then I can have siyata dishmaya, help from above, to do more good with that, to expand to the tzomer stage, to now get more in touch with Torah and mitzvahs. The siyata dishmaya, Rav Ashlag explains, is nothing more. It's gewalt, but it's nothing more than the light of your own neshama. That's the siyata dishmaya, the light of your neshama being acquired more within you. Why is the light of your soul that you're acquiring within you? the siyata dishmaya, because the neshama is the light of Hashem. So getting siyata dishmaya, help from above, means you're accessing more of the light of Hashem within you, which is none other than the light of your neshama. Now, I see your face, and I'm anticipating a question. And the question is, hold on, we're acquiring more levels of our soul. Isn't it already within us, and we just have to get away, like expand into it, like get rid of klippas from around it, from blocking the light? And the answer the Kabbalists give is no. We're given the nefesh. We're given the nefesh level, labuyut, the nukuda shebalev, a nukuda, and it's up to us to merit, to be worthy of acquiring more levels of our soul within us. Acquire more levels of a soul within us means I am refining my kli, my vessel, refining my ego to be able to handle more of the light. When I refine myself as a human being, up the stages, I've expanded my kli to be able to contain more of the light of my neshama. I'm acquiring aspects of my neshama. And the scary thing is, people can lose what they acquire. Because the Zohar says an angry person, the neshama leaves them. What does that mean? But I'm alive. You're left with the basic life force that keeps you surviving. But the neshama, the siyata dishmaya, the light of your soul, basically you're out of touch with it. It left you. That's why they say don't look at an angry person in the eyes. Because it's not a shame. We have to leave. We all have to leave. An angry person. So, okay. I'm opening, people are starting to leave around the table because it's already past the time. But if anyone has a question at home, you have a question, you want to unmute? No? You're all good? Think about it. Okay, Sarah Malka.
It was very clear, thanks. It was a great class.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, good. It always makes me nervous when people don't have questions. Oh, but we had questions here. Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
ma'am.
It was great.
Thank you.
I understand the relationship between the light and the vessel. I just want to understand the vessels of the world. Like how
We're building it. We're gonna explain all of it. Because it's states of consciousness. The worlds are states of consciousness.